Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us for the August session of the From the Bench Virtual Studio Tour series. My name is Sarah Songer, and I'm the Program and Studio Manager at San Francisco Center for the Book. And this month, we're very happy to have Josh Dannin as our guest artist. Josh Dannin is an artist and printmaker originally from Philadelphia, now based in Bethlehem, New Hampshire. Dannin runs Directangle Press, a letterpress and risograph printmaking studio and artist residency in the White Mountains. Previously a regular contributor to printeresting.org, he co-edits Power Washer Zine, a semi-annual publication about screen printing featuring artist interviews and essays, high-end humor, and lo-fi graphics. In addition to leading workshops at Directangle Press, Dannin teaches printmaking as a visiting lecturer at Dartmouth College and is also taught at New Hampshire Institute of Art and St. Anselm College. Josh's presentation coincides with the upcoming opening of our new exhibition, Unfolding Duplications, Contemporary Risograph Publishing. That's opening this week. If you're local, I hope you'll join us. And with that, hello, Josh.
Hi there. Thanks, everyone, for coming here. I'm going to do a quick screen share. Let's see. And going through some slides here. So basically, I have kind of a few parts to today's program. Can everyone see this all right? Cool, awesome. So some slides here to kind of tell you a bit about my shop, the history of it, sort of how we ended up where we are now, which is up in the White Mountains. And then I'm going to take you all through a little bit of a studio tour to show you what's going on in here right now. We have a few residents in at the moment, which is super fun. And then show you a bit of my work, and we'll round it out with the Q&A. So just to kind of click through here, I'm going to make sure everything is working all right. So thank you, Sarah, and everyone at the center for having me. This is super cool, and I'm excited to be part of this exhibition that's happening out that way. So as Sarah said, I run a shop up in the White Mountains called Directangle Press. We kind of started out, I'm going to walk through like the history of the many studios we've been in. Started out as a publishing imprint. One of the projects we've been publishing kind of since the beginning has been this collaborative project I have with two of my good friends, Todd Irwin and John Irving, called Power Washer Zine. We're sponsored by NASA, as you can see here. And my shop kind of started out as a publishing imprint back in 2014 when I was finishing up grad school at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. And I was very into kind of like, as I'm sure many of you are, the collaborative community environment in the printmaking studio. And the idea of not having that as something that was carrying on indefinitely in my life was kind of something I didn't want to have to imagine. So early on in school, I went to undergrad at Kutztown University. I discovered letterpress when, after carving many characters of wood type in wood blocks manually, someone pointed out to me that that stuff already existed and I didn't need to continue carving letters. And I started hoarding my own stuff because we didn't really have a letterpress set up at school. So by the time I got to grad school, I had already been sort of hauling around a bunch of stuff. The shot on the left is in my graduate studio at Ohio University. And this is kind of the first iteration of Directangle Press, which really existed as an opportunity to collaborate with other artists. One of the first editions we did was with in collaboration with Amos Paul Kennedy Jr., who's one of the finer people that I've met in my life, and just a great mentor and person that I've been lucky enough to stay in touch with all these years. And my kind of thought when I was doing work early on with other artists already working in print was how I might be able to generate something in collaboration with them that was like slightly different than what they were normally doing day to day, even if the work kind of visually resembled it. So this was a kind of broadside piece that I printed with Amos that was on handmade paper from Saint Armand paper mill up in Montreal, and just a little bit different than his usual use of chipboard. And it just was a little bit fun for us to work on together. So a lot of it fun, actually. So anyway, so fast forward a little bit, after grad school, I picked up shop and moved to Pittsburgh. Here's Amos again. I was on the east side of Pittsburgh in an area called Wilkinsburg. And I was there for about 6 months in this small, irregularly shaped studio. Oddly enough, the name Directangle came before it, but it was probably the perfect studio to have the name Directangle. There were no right angles, and it was a very strange space. I was there for about 7 months when I was going to have to kind of shift where I was living and had the opportunity to dig around a little bit of what I wanted to do longer term. So I ended up applying for a bunch of things in New England where I spent a lot of time growing up, wandering around Vermont with my parents. And I found this opportunity at this small college in Manchester, New Hampshire called St. Anselm College. And St. A's needed somebody to be a technician, but also was interested in having an artist in residence. So they gave me a studio because they kind of caught word that I already was running the shop and convinced me to pick up and move north, which I did. So this is Directangle Press version 3.5. 3.0 is a room across the hallway without windows. And after having a brick and mortar spot for that's I guess 6 months in Pittsburgh, I was sort of shifting like behind closed doors, like my original studio in Ohio again. This is the first time that my letterpress equipment that I did for printing a lot of woodcut work and letterpress stuff and risograph setup that I had accidentally fallen into in 2015 when some friends moved across the country. The first time these things were all of a sudden living in the same space because previously I couldn't fit it in my tiny wedge-shaped studio. So when I could no longer have folks coming in and out of the studio, which was still pretty early on in my studio operation, but I was like really into the idea of having people come in and collaborate. When I was on studio grounds, it wasn't the kind of thing that I could just invite random people into the shop all the time. So what I started doing was much more collaborative work. This is a project from 2017 with one of my good friends, Sage Parrott, who also goes by Hey Peep. This is an accordion book, all risograph printed, that I think we produced for an SGC conference in Atlanta, maybe. And a lot of these projects that were made during this time, 2017, 2018, were things that kind of fell between contract printing jobs that I was doing, sort of by accident for other artists. There was a certain point when word got out in Pittsburgh that I had a Riso printer that I didn't even really know how to use yet. It was kind of before they were popping up all over the place. And people tried to hire me to print their stuff, and I had to figure out real quick how to use it and use it at a level that I was comfortable, sharing work out the door with. So I started doing, jobs for folks and also doing collaborative projects to kind of further give me the opportunity to explore with the process and experiment and so on. So this is a project with Tess Rubenstein, who at that time was based out of Portland, Oregon. I think she's somewhere in the Bay Area now, maybe. And then all along the way, I was collaborating with my good friends on this Power Washer zine project that up to this point, as of today, has 8 issues. We released the last one online just before or right around when everything shut down for COVID, and we had generated the publication. And then just as we were about to actually produce it in person, everything shut down. So we had to cancel flights and all that stuff, as I'm sure you can all relate to in so many different ways. And we released that 8th issue online and finally put it in print in 2022. So we're kind of working on the next thing. But in 2019, we did this exhibition in Cleveland. And it was basically a large scale blown up zine turned exhibition, in which case my collaborator Todd and I produced all of the work in the show with artwork that the artists that we had featured submitted to us. So everything in the show was produced uniquely for the show in either screen printed form or Riso printed form. We kind of split the duties. And these things, as you can kind of see in the background, some of them were posters, some of them were different size prints, some of them were prints on t-shirts and tank tops. We had some koozies in the mix. I think Power Washer Zine kind of prides itself on being this fun kind of like lowbrow project that we just kind of do whatever with. And it used to be semi-regular or semi-annual, I think we called it. Now it's occasionally regular or some new version of that, since everything got crazy throughout COVID times. But it's been this kind of great project that's allowed the few of us working on it to do a lot of collaborative work with folks that maybe otherwise wouldn't have. And we've had some 50 artists featured in it over the years. So it's been a lot of fun. So fast forward to 2018, and I kind of hit a point where I was ready to start having a non-campus-based studio where my students couldn't find me all the time. All this time I'd been teaching at St. Anselm College for the few years full-time, and my studio was kind of behind closed doors across the building from where all of my students were working. So at a certain point, I get knocks on the door at 9 o'clock. Somebody needed to figure out how to turn the printer on and stuff like that, which was, great. But also the time came to have some space. So I was fortunate to find an opportunity to build out a little space in Goffstown, a neighboring village right outside of Manchester, New Hampshire, and had this great little 200 square foot print shop with this cool vaulted ceiling. It was attached to the back of a store on Main Street, Goffstown. It was an old tractor garage that we converted into this space. And this was my kind of first step back into doing in-person programming. We were starting to, besides the fact, continue doing collaborative work, we were starting to bring people in again to do collaborative projects, doing a lot of printing for other people. And I started running Reso workshops every couple of weeks. This went on from, I guess, early 2019 through, I think the last gathering we had at this shop was like days before the world shut down in March of 2018 or 2020, excuse me. So it was great. It was a fun space, and folks that would take workshops would come back and kind of rent out studio time and make their own work. We started doing this cool project called Second Sundays Artwork, that artists would come in the second Sunday of each month for a couple hours and just kind of sit and do whatever they were working on, whether it was like editing an article or editing photos, working on poetry, knitting, working on drawings. And we would have a featured artist or writer or poet each month. We got through a few of those and it was a lot of fun. But then everything shut down. So at that point, it was kind of like, I don't know that I need to have a public facing space anymore if there's no public to interact with. And I was paying rent for this studio and also a flat 2 blocks up the road. At this time, we had just started about 6 months prior, maybe a little farther out than that, our very early stage of our residency program that at that point was called the Reso Micro Residency. Or the Micro Reso Residency, something like that. And it was, we had our first artists were Jason Urban and Leslie Muchler. And then we had an artist, Jason and Leslie were in Brooklyn at the time and just moved up from Austin. We had an amazing artist, Ashley Fuchs, that came out from Bozeman, Montana. And then we had juried in the next 2 artists to come in that summer before everything shut down, Olivia Fredericks and Emmett Merrill. And then, we couldn't do it anymore. So the kind of accidental response to that was doing a lot of digging around at how to not be paying rent in multiple different ways. And I kind of happened upon this amazing property that I was magically able to sort of fall into when things were still cheap, up in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. I had been trying to figure out where in the state I could see myself being long-term. Almost went back to Philly, but I found this awesome place that I'm going to just scroll through these along the way. Found this awesome place that allowed me to set up my forever studio. This is Directangle Press version 5.0, up here in Bethlehem, New Hampshire. And it's been kind of an amazing opportunity to settle into and join a community of folks that were already doing great things in the visual arts and music and performing arts and theater. And there's a really amazing community of, creative entrepreneurial folks doing great things with food and local ice cream and amazing farms and all this stuff. And it was buried, kind of tucked in up north, north of Franconia Notch. If any of you know St. Johnsbury, Vermont, we're kind of up there. And I never in a million years thought that of all the places I'd find this community I'd been looking for, that it was going to be up in the White Mountains. So it's been awesome. Settled up here in August of 2020. Gradually built out this space. This is an outbuilding behind this old boarding house that I came into. And over the past few years have been building out this space. I kind of used the lockdown period to convert this, which was a filthy old machine shop auto garage, into what you see here. And I'll walk you through in a moment. and also get our residency program kind of going in full swing. So on the right is our studio, which is currently 1,000 square feet. In front of the studio is one of our four-legged associates, Watson. And then on the left, you can see this old boarding house, which is built in the 20s. This area in kind of like the pre-car, pre-vehicle automobile era was a massive destination for grand hotels. There were 3 train stations sending trains back and forth from New York City to Bethlehem, New Hampshire, like 5 to 7 times a day, up until really kind of the car became like the main form of transportation and trains weren't used as much. So there were a lot of these boarding houses and places where, folks would stay outside of the grand hotels. So this was one of them. And basically, this place was kind of almost purpose made for an artist residency. It was built as a duplex. It has half the house that was disconnected from the other half. I joined the downstairs, so we have a completely communal first floor of the house, and then we have a dedicated artist wing, which is kind of this left side of the house in this picture. That is allows us to give currently 2 artists at a time private space to stay in while they work in our shop for a week or 2 at a time, and they have a private bathroom, and they're 75 feet from this studio. And it's been super fun. We've had folks from all over the place. Our artists that are here right now, who you'll meet at least one of shortly, I did the numbers, and they are our 85th and 86th artists that we've hosted. And it's really been pretty amazing. It is everything and more I could have asked for when I was thinking about how to continue kind of collaborating with artists back in the day. In 2015, when I was finishing up grad school, we have folks making cool stuff all the time in the shop. It keeps the equipment happy because, as many of you know, this equipment is much happier when it's used constantly, especially Riso printers and Vandercooks and the like. The dogs love it. There's Watson on the left. Bear on the right is one of our newer employees. He is now like 90 pounds at 7 months old and growing. So he's many typefaces taller than he is in that picture. And there's also all kinds of great stuff to do around here. So when folks aren't working in the studio, we're only about 45 minutes away from Bread and Puppet. And we can take, that's Ben and Sammy on the left there in the Bread and Puppet museum that has a ton of their old retired and semi-retired puppets. Zach Clark, who many of you may know from the Bay Area, who is one of the curators of this exhibition that we were talking about before, enjoying some mighty croissants from Crumb Bum Bakery in Littleton. And then Mary Climbs of currently Minnesota, St. Paul area, doing some killer karaoke at our center of town Reckless Brewing, which is exactly 8 minutes from our front door. So there's lots to do around here, lots of good stuff going on all the time. And yeah, it's a really cool place to be. And this is Directangle Press version 6.0 that we're working on right now designing. We are, one of the things about moving into a building that was not, made to have lots of funky equipment in it is we don't have anywhere to put a broom or anything like that. And we don't have water out here. So we're working on building out a studio expansion that will allow us to start running our programs again like we used to regularly pre-pandemic, give space to potentially host a 3rd resident artist at a time, and give everyone room to kind of, spread out and create, more of a community and get some running water out here. That's the big thing. That space on the left there is going to be a water source, which is very exciting. So that's kind of what's going on here right now. I am going to take you for a little walkthrough of our studio as it is at the moment. And I'm going to kind of relocate myself so I can do that. Sarah, I think you can just change over to me when I get to my destination. Is that right?
I am ready.
Cool. Okay. Give me 1 minute here.
As you're
So
walking,
you all,
go ahead.
oh yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say, you all saw a glimpse of that space, and I'll take you through kind of from the front door to everything. And one of our residents, Valerie Carrigan, is here. So you'll see Valerie for a second. Go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
Oh, darn it. Can somebody unmute themselves and let me know, are you seeing Josh's studio large or still the screen share?
Hey,
Still
Sarah.
the screen share.
Oh, the screen shared. Josh, I'm sorry. Could you run
Oh, I
back
need
to
a,
the, could you
sure,
just
sure, sure.
cancel your screen share? Oh, maybe I can do it for you. Hold on.
Give me 1 second. I'll run back right now and do it. This
Sorry.
is, no
Hold on.
worries. This is,
Maybe I got it. Oh no, that's just me. No, you do it. Sorry.
okay. Pushing things here with this multi-camera approach. This is an experiment. Cool, okay. That
All
work?
right. We've got the right spotlight. Sorry,
You're
everyone.
gonna see me for a second here.
There we
All right.
go.
Okay, so can y'all see this all right?
Yes.
So we have, so just to give you kind of a little context, so we are behind the residency house, which is right there. There's a mountain up above you can kind of see. That's Mount Agassiz. And back here, we're in this this converted studio building. So give me a minute. I'm just kind of getting used to using this gimbal thing here. So on the one side of the shop, we have a dedicated Reso setup and some bindery equipment. There's 2 residents working in here right now, so there's a lot of stuff kind of floating about. So in different weeks, there's different kind of tables set up depending on who wants to use what. We have a pair of 2 color Reso printers in here. They're both MZ machines, so you can see that there. This has been something that that one of our artists, Christine Garvey's been working on this week. We have some bindery equipment over here. We heat with a pellet stove in the winter, so if you come here in the winter months, there's all kinds of good stuff going on with fire for heat. And then we have our kind of press room over here that has currently one of our artists, Valerie Carrigan, working here. There's Valerie. Valerie is visiting us from North Adams, Mass, and sometimes Providence. And then we have 3 Vandercooks in the shop. The one on the left is a project press of mine, a 320G that I'm kind of currently working on, hence the pile of tools next to it. We have a number 4 in the middle, actually a 4T, and then we have a universal 3 hand crank press, complete with a tower, all kinds of wood type. And we have another Reso setup over here, and they're both the same machine. So we have 17 Reso colors between the 2, and that allows for a lot of, cross-pollination between the 2 machines. Got some paper cutting equipment, and then we have an electrohydraulic etching press over here that was recently donated by a regional printmaker. And that's kind of the main thing happening here. Valerie, we can take a look at some of the work that Valerie is making here. I don't know if they're going to be able to hear you, Valerie, so but Valerie's doing all kinds of cool stuff using our Uni 3, and yeah, super exciting stuff happening this week in here. So this is kind of the space.
I have
And
to ask about the drum kit, Josh.
oh yeah, so my background's in music originally. So before I got into all this and went back to school, I was like some kind of touring musician guy, and I would wander around the country playing music. This is the first space that I've had to have dedicated music equipment kind of set up all the time. And when there's not residents here, we have major jam sessions in the shop. And yeah, so it's kind of a little piece of me that when I need a little break from especially when I'm doing Reso printing and I need to get away from that process, I step aside here and make some noise. And yeah. So that's that. We've got some guitars in here. We have a piano in the house. The hope is someday to be able to host some songwriters for songwriting residencies.
Oh wow.
But for now, we have this, and it's really great. So yeah, so I'm gonna set you all down here and hop back over to my computer.
I will.
And yeah.
You'll be
Cool. Okay.
well. That was
All
relatively
right.
seamless. Nice. Thank you.
Not too bad, right?
Hope we didn't make anyone too motion sick, but that was pretty smooth as those things go. Um, we have a question. Someone's wondering about for the residencies, do you give a crash course on the Reso machines?
Yeah. So, for each resident that comes in, we send folks a little like intake form on the front end to get a sense of if people want to do any kind of workshop stuff, or we're looking for, sometimes people are looking for assistance to like just have an extra set of hands to complete a project. So it's pretty routine that folks come through that maybe have never had access to one of these printers before, either on the Reso side of things or sometimes other stuff. And there's always an opportunity to do one-on-one workshops, building from the ground up to really kind of go from zero knowledge to, being able to work independently. And then plenty of folks just are looking for a quick refresher, or maybe folks have used the machine that has a scanner bed but never used the computer output for Reso, or maybe they haven't used a two-color printer. So we can kind of accommodate all kinds of scenarios. The goal here is really to be able to sort of be a space that anybody, whether they're like, still in school, never went to school, well established, really any kind of version of someone that's interested in making can come in and experiment with this material, this equipment. And I see sort of myself as someone that's hopefully aiding in folks being able to do that, work independently on whatever they'd like to make while they're here. So yeah.
I know I certainly have more residency related questions because I find that whole thing
Sure.
fascinating. But I know that you have more slides of your work, and so
Oh,
I don't want us to miss that.
yeah, I just have a few little pictures. I forgot about that part. I have a few pictures of the work that I make personally. It'll be super quick, but I can just show you real quick. Um, and it's, I think there's only like 2 or 3 here. So let's see if I can get this to work. So my background's originally in lino cut work and wood cut work. So these are some prints that I made more recently for an exhibition. And I'm kind of back and forth all the time between carving based stuff and book or installation based work. I just need to be making things, but it doesn't always have to be studio based. So like I at times much happier just like working in the wood shop, cutting, 2x4s or something to build. But I'm very into working with components. So whether it's cutting up, lino cut blocks to then puzzle back together, or I'm obsessed with alpha blocks. So this is an installation I did. Actually, Amy's here from Rochester Museum of Fine Art in kind of out by the seacoast of New Hampshire. This is an installation I did with them, I guess like right before everything shut down in 2020, which is kind of crazy. This was an abandoned or vacant at the time storefront, hopefully not vacant anymore. I'm not sure. And this lasted for about 3 weeks, I think, before the interior rain kind of like took it down. But that was kind of a cool way for it to go out with a bang. So there's that, which is one of my favorite projects. It lives on in a different form as an installation elsewhere in New Hampshire. But and then this is the most recent work I've been making, which is this was installed as part of the New England Art Book Fair in Portland, Maine, this past August through October, I think it was. I've been doing a lot of research about this area of northeastern Arizona, Keams Canyon, where my parents lived before I was born. Some family history there, and kind of like doing, I guess it's sort of like autobiographical exploration, and making it in installation format with Reso. So I've been mounting a lot of Reso prints to wood. This is all mounted to poplar. Some Reso mounted to installation board. And then I've been doing a lot of this also like working in chunks in book format. So I don't have any images of the book, but there's kind of a few different book versions of this. I think that's the last. Oh, and then you can always find me at different art fairs, print fairs, publishers fairs, art book fairs, print and book fairs, zine fests, all the above. And yeah, that's kind of where we bring the stuff that I always say it's pretty much me and whatever artists are in here at the time. I'm not good at talking in terms of I, so but it's usually me and my wonderful partner Emily standing behind these tables. Emily is much better at slinging books than I am. But yeah, so this is a glance at kind of one of our setups. This is at the Boston Art Book Fair, and yeah, that's our info. So if anyone, thank you so much. If anyone has any questions or would like to chat about anything, I have nowhere to be. I'll talk as long as you want to talk.
Patty's got a question. Where are you in the residency application process right now? And is that etching press up and running?
Oh, that etching press is up and running. It's a funky press. It's an electro-hydraulic etching press made by, I think it says Galaxy Industries of Hollis, New Hampshire. I have no idea when it was made or if there's more than one of them, but it does work. It has all fresh hoses. It moves back and forth You can control the PSI of the pressure besides the micrometer pressure. It's pretty
Wow.
crazy. It does work. We just this morning launched our next call for artists. The proposal period right now closes September 15th, and that is for residencies taking place between mid-January 2025 and mid-late April 2025. We generally run 3 sessions a year, so this call is for kind of late winter and spring, and then we'll do our next call, which the deadline for summer applications, which will open, once this first one closes. Our second session of the year is mid-May to early September, and that deadline, I believe, offhand, is December 10th. And then we have a fall deadline as well. So all that stuff's available on our website. There's a dedicated residency page, and it has the kind of date windows and the application deadlines for each of those as well. And there's also a backup list application on there for folks that maybe don't have the ability to, commit to a certain date, farther out or whatever to apply for an application period, but are just curious about any windows that may have popped up, because we sometimes get folks that have to reschedule or cancel. And we have kind of like a running list where people can just send us some of their work to just get a sense of who everyone is. And then we reach out to folks when we have openings. So that can be, sometimes we'll have an opening that's like next month, and it just kind of comes about, and then we'll reach out to folks. And our quickest turnaround has been somebody that unfortunately got COVID, and we were able to fill the spot in 72 hours before the residency. Somehow it was kind of wild.
Amazing.
So that's the record. But yeah, we're happy to to welcome anyone in.
As a lifelong coastal Californian who is convinced that weather will kill me, I am fascinated that you do this year round and that everything doesn't just shut down in the winter. Like January,
Yeah.
do you ever encounter like weather things? There's no bathroom in the studio. You have to walk back to the house.
There's no bathroom yet. We're hoping that as of the end of September, there will be a bathroom in here, but we'll see. Fingers crossed. Yeah, I mean, it's like, so the house, I mean, it's a quick, 65, 75-foot walk. So there's a dedicated studio bathroom that's like just happens to be across the drive. And yeah, we definitely get proper winters up here. Besides the region as a whole, Bethlehem itself is at 1,700 feet elevation. So we're kind of like a little like microclimate within kind of the mountainous region here, in terms of the town center being situated up higher. And we close from like mid-December to mid-January, which usually doesn't cover the extreme snow. But we've only had a situation or two where folks that were going to be commuting by bus, some folks take a bus up from Boston Logan Airport that comes right up this way. I think that the bus got canceled because of the snowstorm, and then they stayed for an extra night and made some more work, and then they went back the next day. So
That's great. Yeah, not to make
yeah,
it sound bad. I think it sounds fascinating and exciting.
it is.
I am
Yeah,
just a big baby.
yeah,
So
it's an adventure at all
yeah,
times.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I do want to ask one more question because I know it's after times, but whatever. We've got all the time, you said.
Sure.
Did you do a lot of artist residencies on your own? It sounds like this is really inspired by your desire to continue collaborating with people once you're out of school and that sort of goes away and you're standing in your studio by yourself. But like, did you come up with this idea? Did you start going to artist residencies so you could do your own research? I know you talked to Macy. Like, do you all have a collaborative network of people
Yeah,
sharing
I mean,
tips and tricks?
that's actually, I think that we should do more of that. That's a great idea. I mean, it's like, as you all know, it's like such a tight knit community in general within like print and book and zines and whatever the different areas are. I did quite a few residencies sort of before grad school and during and after. And one of the first ones I did was called Sparkbox Studio, run by two of my now best friends, Chrissy Putra and Kyle Topping. They're up in Picton, Ontario. And I was there in 2011, I think. And they had what I pretty much based this off of, in that they had this really cool old farmhouse with an outbuilding that they converted into a print shop. And they were hosting 3 artists at a time. And I went there and became really good friends with them and good friends with their friends and really close with a bunch of people in the family, and went back, not as a resident, but went back every year between 2011 and 2020 uh, due to the pandemic, just for us to hang out. And that kind of like transformed my life, because I think it was just a really nice way to both connect with people, that were just like potential peers and friends in the community, art world or otherwise. But also, I've always been like a big like wanderer and someone that needs to travel and like go places all the time. I can't sit still. And I I always saw residencies as an opportunity to do that while also making work, and kind of getting to pick a place that I would otherwise not get to go to. So I've been fortunate to do a few stints at Cork Printmakers in the south coast of Ireland. I have great friends there now, and I think that each one of these places influences or informs a different part of the way that things operate now. I know that I think Macy came through Sparkbox at one point, and
Okay.
I had a call with Macy before I got things going here. Everyone's kind of like, there's all this crossover, which is kind of great. Um, yeah, so it's definitely like I'm endlessly interested in what other folks that are either actively doing residencies or running them, like things that pop up and interesting projects that are made and people that overlap.
Mhm.
It's like a web. It's wild.
Totally. It's a really wonderful community, and yeah, I'm not surprised that the people running these residencies are always willing to help.
Yeah, it's nice.
All right. Well, other than a comment on the cute baby in the audience, I think that's us for today. So thank you so much, Josh, for taking the time to speak with us today. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Next month, we'll be meeting on the first Thursday again. So that's Thursday, August 1st. And the croissant admiring man in your slideshow, Zach Clark, will be the guest. Also, as Josh mentioned, the curator for what will then be the current SFCB exhibition, Unfolding Duplications, Contemporary Risograph Publishing. He's one of the curators of that show, along with Amy Burek. So, if you have a taste of the Riso fever and you want to learn more, he's a publisher and artist educator. And yeah, so we'll speak with him next month. Thank you again, Josh. And thank you, everyone, for coming. See you next time, I hope. Bye.
Thanks, Sarah. And Ted, that golden jobber is a gem. Yeah, it's a good one.